Admiral Helena Kurtz stood at the window of the Terran embassy on Concordat Prime, watching alien ships drift past like silver fish in a vast ocean. She had seen this view 1,000 times in the past 50 years, but today it made her stomach twist with anger. Behind her, Ambassador Chen Wei slammed his data pad on the marble table. The sound echoed through the empty council chamber where they had just been humiliated. Again. 70%, Chen said, his voice shaking. They want 70% of everything we make. Our factories, our medicine, our food, everything. Helena turned from the window. Her gray hair was pulled back tight and her uniform carried medals from the First Contact War. That war had taught humanity a hard lesson. They were weak. The galaxy saw Earth as a planet full of primitives who barely deserved to exist among the stars. What did the High Arbiter say when you protested? Helena asked, though she already knew the answer. Chen's face went red. She laughed. That crystal witch actually laughed at me. She said humans should be grateful the Concordat allows us to breathe their air. Helena nodded slowly. She had expected this. For 50 years since humanity invented faster-than-light travel and joined galactic society, the Concordat had pushed and pushed. First, they took the good planets humans wanted to colonize. Then they forced unfair trade deals. They made laws that applied only to humans. They called Earth a death world, and its people dangerous primitives. And humanity had bent. They had bowed. They had smiled and said yes, thank you, while the galaxy stepped on their necks. But Helena knew something the Concordat did not. How long until the tribute deadline? She asked. 30 days, Chen said. And if we don't comply, High Arbiter Velshara said they will take corrective military action. That means war. Helena pulled out her own datapad and typed a coded message. Good. Chen looked at her with wide eyes. Good? Helena, they have thousands of warships. We have maybe 200 and most of those are outdated. They will crush us. A small smile crossed Helena's face. Ambassador, how long have we known each other? 30 years. And in all that time, have you ever been to the Kuiper Belt? Past Neptune? Chen frowned. No, why would I? There's nothing out there but ice and rocks. Exactly what we wanted everyone to think. Helena's smile grew wider. She pressed send on her message. Ambassador Chen, I need you to resign your position and come with me back to Earth. There is something you need to see. Resign? Helena, this is not the time Trust me, she interrupted. This is exactly the time. 3 days later, Chen stood in a transport ship, staring out at the largest object he had ever seen. It floated in the darkness beyond Pluto, surrounded by construction drones and defense platforms. The ship was black as space itself, 15 kilometers long and bristling with weapons that Chen did not recognize. What is that? He whispered. Commander Marcus Steele stood beside him, a proud smile on his scarred face. Steele was young for a commander, only 40, but he had spent his entire adult life on this project. That ambassador is the TDF Ragnaron PK, humanity's gift to the galaxy. How? Helena appeared behind them. We started building her the day after first contact, 30 years ago. Every nation on Earth contributed. Every scientist, every engineer, every factory worker. We pulled resources from Mars, mined materials from Jupiter's moons, and built her in secret. Chen could not look away from the massive ship. Why didn't you tell me? Because diplomats talk, Steele said, not unkindly. And if the Concordat knew we were building this, they would have destroyed Earth before we finished. The transport moved closer, and Chen saw the details. Massive cannons ran along the ship's spine. Missile pods covered the hull like scales on a dragon. The ship's engines glowed with a strange purple light he had never seen before. What kind of weapons are those? Chen asked. Steele's smile became sharp. Human weapons. Mass drivers that fired tungsten rods at 30% light speed. Nuclear-pumped plasma lances. Singularity warheads. Electronic warfare systems that can turn enemy ships into blind, deaf targets. We took 10,000 years of human warfare and put it all into one ship. The crew. 50,000 volunteers, Helena said. People who have lived in secret for decades. People who trained for this moment. People who know that if we fail, humanity will be enslaved or destroyed. Chen felt something cold in his chest. You are planning to fight the entire Concordat? If we have to, Helena said simply.
They gave us 30 days.
In 28 days, their punishment fleet will arrive at Earth. 200 ships, according to our intelligence. 200 against 1? Chen's voice cracked. Commander Steele laughed. Ambassador, you still think like they do. You think numbers matter. But the Concordat has ruled for 12,000 years without serious war. They have forgotten what real combat looks like. Humanity never stopped perfecting warfare. We just hid it from them. Helena pulled up a holographic display. The Concordat fleet is already moving. They will arrive in 28 days, expecting humanity to surrender. Instead, we will show them what happens when you back humans into a corner. Chen looked at the three-dimensional image of the Ragnarok PK, then at the tactical displays showing the Concordat fleet approaching Earth. His diplomatic training screamed at him that this was insane. One ship against 200, one species against 847. But then he remembered High Arbiter Velshara's laugh. He remembered 50 years of humiliation. He remembered every unfair law, every stolen planet, every human treated as less than the aliens who thought themselves superior. What do you need from me? Chen asked. Helena smiled. Your knowledge of the Concordat's political structure. When we win, we will need to know who to negotiate with and who to eliminate. When we win, Chen repeated. He looked at the Ragnarok again and felt something he had not felt in decades. Hope. Dangerous, violent hope. You really think we can do this? Commander Steele moved to the transport's controls. Ambassador, humanity survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and nuclear weapons. We climbed out of caves and reached the stars. The Concordat thinks we are primitive? He began piloting the transport toward the Ragnarok's docking bay. They are about to learn that primitive does not mean weak. It means we remember how to fight. The transport slid into the massive ship's hangar. Through the window, Chen saw thousands of crew members working, checking systems, loading weapons. Every face showed determination. Every movement showed purpose. Helena put a hand on Chen's shoulder. The Concordat made their choice when they demanded our surrender. Now we make ours. In 28 days they will arrive at Earth expecting submission. Her eyes went hard as steel. Instead, they will meet the Ragnarok, and the galaxy will learn that underestimating humanity is a fatal mistake. Chen nodded slowly. He was no longer an ambassador. That life was over. Now he was something else. A voice for his species in the war to come. The countdown had begun. 28 days until the Concordat learned the truth. Humanity had spent 50 years pretending to be weak, pretending to be primitive, pretending to accept their place at the bottom of galactic society. But it had all been a lie. A carefully constructed performance while humanity built their sword in the darkness. And soon, very soon, that sword would taste alien blood. 28 days later, Fleet Commander Zalthos sat in his command chair aboard the Concordat flagship Eternal Justice, watching Earth grow larger on his view screen. Around his ship, 199 other Concordat warships moved in perfect formation. It was a beautiful sight, a demonstration of power that would make the humans remember their place. Status report, Zalthos ordered. He was a Kelshani, a species that looked like large crabs with too many eyes. His species had served as the Concordat's military arm for 6,000 years. They were good at their job. All ships in position, Commander, his tactical officer reported. Earth's defensive platforms are active but not targeting us. Their fleet of 200 ships is holding position near the moon. Zalthos clicked his mandibles together in what his species used as a laugh. 200 outdated human ships against our fleet. This will be over in an hour. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from Earth, the communications officer said. It is Admiral Helena Kurtz. Put her on screen. The view screen changed to show an old human woman in a dark uniform. She looked tired but not afraid. That annoyed Zalthos. She should be afraid. Fleet Commander Zalthos, Helena said calmly. You have entered Terran space with hostile intent. You have one chance to turn around and leave. Zalthos laughed, a clicking, hissing sound. Admiral, you are outnumbered and outgunned. The High Arbiter has ordered your compliance. Surrender now, and Earth will only lose 70% of its production. Resist and you will lose everything. Helena smiled. It was not a nice smile. Commander, humanity has a saying. Fuck around and find out. You are about to learn what it means. The transmission ended. Zalthos stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his weapons officer. Target their defensive platforms. Prepare to fire, sir. The sensor officer's voice rose with alarm. Contact bearing 270. large mass signature emerging from behind Earth's moon. On the view screen, something appeared, something huge. Zalthos felt a moment of confusion, then fear as he realized what he was seeing. A ship, but not like any ship he had ever encountered. It was black as space, 15 kilometers long and covered in weapons. Hundreds of weapons, thousands of weapons, what is that? He whispered. On Earth, in the Terran Defense Command Center, Admiral Helena Kurtz watched her screens as the Ragnar MPK moved into position. Around her, dozens of officers monitored systems and communications. Everyone was silent. Everyone was ready. All weapon systems charged and ready. One officer reported. Shields at maximum, another said. Helena opened a channel to Commander Marcus Steele aboard the Ragnar MPK. Commander, you are free to engage. Understood, Admiral. Steele's voice was calm. Beginning attack run. Helena watched as the massive ship accelerated toward the Concordat fleet. She had spent 30 years planning this moment. 30 years of secret construction, training, and preparation. Everything depended on the next few hours. On the Ragnar Ibex bridge, Marcus Steele sat in his command chair and studied the tactical display. 200 Concordat ships were spreading out, trying to surround his vessel. They were using standard Concordat tactics, formations that had worked for thousands of years, but Steele had studied every battle humanity had ever fought. From ancient Rome to the world wars to the corporate conflicts of the 21st century, he knew tactics the Concordat had never imagined. Target the flagship first, Steele ordered. Mass drivers 1 through 20. Fire when ready. 20 massive cannons along the Ragnar MPK's spine fired. They did not fire energy beams like Concordat weapons. They fired solid tungsten rods, each one weighing 10 tons and moving at 30% of light speed. On the Eternal Justice, Zalthos saw the energy signatures and relaxed slightly. Activate shields. They are firing projectile weapons, primitive. The ship's shields came up, a shimmering field of energy that could stop any known weapon in the galaxy. The tungsten rods hit the shields and passed through them like they were not there. The shields were designed to stop energy weapons and slow fast objects. But nothing in the Concordat had ever dealt with solid metal, moving at 90,000 kilometers per second. 10 rods hit the Eternal Justice. The ship's hull, made of advanced alloys and designed to survive centuries of service, simply ceased to exist where the rods struck. Each rod created a tunnel of superheated plasma through the ship, destroying everything in its path. The Eternal Justice broke in half and exploded. Fleet Commander. Zalthos had 1 second to realize his mistake before he died. The rest of the Concordat fleet stared in shock as their flagship became an expanding cloud of debris. On 50 different ships, captains who had never seen real combat froze, uncertain what to do. Steele did not give them time to think. Launch all missiles. Activate electronic warfare. Target their command ships. The Ragnar MPK released a swarm of missiles, thousands of them, each with its own AI and multiple warheads. They dodged and weaved through space, avoiding the Concordat's point defense systems. At the same time, the Ragnar MPK's electronic warfare systems activated. Powerful computers began hacking into Concordat networks, spreading viruses and false information. Targeting systems failed. Communication channels filled with garbage data. Ships that had worked perfectly for decades suddenly became blind and confused. Plasma lances, fire at will, Steele ordered. New weapons fired. Beams of nuclear-powered plasma, hotter than the surface of a star, reached out and touched Concordat ships. Hulls melted. Crews died. Ships that had seemed invincible minutes before became burning wrecks. The battle turned into a slaughter. On Earth, Helena watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. In the first 30 minutes, the Ragnar MPK destroyed 50 Concordat ships. The rest were trying to retreat or fight back, but their weapons barely scratched the Ragnar MPK's gravitic shields. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched the battle on live feeds. The Concordat always broadcast their punishment actions as warnings to other species, but now those feeds showed something they never expected. Humanity was winning. On Concordat Prime, High Arbiter Velshara watched the battle with growing horror. Her crystalline body, which normally glowed with soft blue light, flickered with angry red. "How is this possible?" she demanded. "They are primitives, Deathworld savages. How do they have such weapons?" Her military advisor, a four-armed Thalcan, spoke carefully. High Arbiter, it appears humanity has been secretly preparing for war since first contact. This ship, it represents technology we have never encountered. Then send more ships. Velshara's voice cracked like breaking glass. Send the Grand Armada. I want Earth reduced to ashes. High Arbiter, perhaps we should negotiate a no. Velshara turned her many eyes on her advisor. Humanity must be punished for this defiance. Send orders to all sectors. Every available warship is to converge on the Sol system. I want 2,000 ships. I want humanity erased from existence. The advisor bowed and left to carry out the orders. But inside he felt something he had never felt before when thinking about the Concordat. Doubt. Back at Earth, the battle was ending. Of the 200 Concordat ships that had arrived, only 37 survived. They retreated in disorder, jumping to faster-than-light speed as soon as they could. On the Ragnarok K, Marcus Steele watched them go. His ship had taken damage, but nothing serious. 53 crew members were dead, a small price compared to what they had achieved. Admiral Kurtz, Steele said over the communications channel, Earth is secure. Enemy fleet destroyed or retreated. Helena felt relief wash over her, but she kept her voice steady. Well done, Commander. But this is just the beginning. The Concordat will not accept this defeat. They will send everything they have. Let them come, Steele replied. We have shown them that humanity is not weak. Now we show them that we are not afraid either. Helena nodded and opened a channel to all of Earth, to every colony, to every human in the solar system. People of Earth, she began. Today we won our first victory against the Concordat. But they will return with more ships, more weapons. They will try to destroy us for daring to fight back. She paused. So we will not wait for them. We will take the fight to them. We will show the galaxy that humanity bows to no one. Across Earth and its colonies, millions of humans cheered, and in the secret shipyards hidden throughout the solar system, work began on 5 more super dreadnoughts. High Arbiter Velshara stood before the Concordat Grand Council, her crystalline body pulsing with angry red light. Around her, representatives from 847 species waited in their chambers, watching through holographic displays. The human ship must be destroyed, Velshara declared. I have ordered the Grand Armada to assemble. 2,000 ships will converge on the Sol system within 20 days. Humanity will be eliminated. High Arbiter, a voice spoke from one of the chambers. It belonged to Representative Thelos, a gas being from the outer reaches. Perhaps we should reconsider. The humans defeated 200 of our ships with only one of theirs. What if nothing? Velshara's voice echoed through the chamber. They are primitives who got lucky. 2,000 ships will crush them. This discussion is over. But Thelos was not the only one with doubts. Across the galaxy, species watched the recordings of the battle at Earth. They saw how easily human weapons tore through Concordat defenses. They saw tactics and technology they did not understand. And some species, those who had been conquered by the Concordat long ago, began to wonder. If humans could fight back, maybe they could too. On the Ragnarok PK, Commander Marcus Steele studied star charts and intelligence reports. The Concordat was gathering its fleet at the Nexus Gate, a strategic point where multiple faster-than-light routes intersected. From there, they would jump to Earth in one massive attack. Admiral Kurtz wants us to wait here and defend Earth, his tactical officer, Lieutenant Sarah Chen, said. She was the ambassador's daughter and had served on the Ragnarok PK since its construction began. Steele shook his head. No, we have maybe 18 days before that armada arrives. If we wait, they will be fully prepared and coordinated. We need to hit them before they are ready. Sir, you are talking about taking one ship into Concordat space, past their defensive lines, past their sensor networks. Exactly. Steele smiled. They think we will sit at Earth and wait. That is what they would do. But humanity did not conquer Earth by being predictable. We will take the fight to them. He opened a secure channel to Helena Kurtz. When her face appeared on the screen, he did not give her time to speak. Admiral, I request permission to take the Ragnarok PK behind enemy lines. The Concordat is gathering at the Nexus Gate. If we hit them there, we can destroy their fleet before they organize. Helena was quiet for a long moment. Marcus, you will be alone in hostile space. No support. No reinforcements. Humanity has always done its best work when outnumbered, Steele replied. Helena almost smiled. Granted. But Commander, you need to do more than just destroy ships. We need to break the Concordat politically. Show the galaxy that they are not invincible. I understand, Admiral. Then go. And Marcus, come back alive. We need heroes right now. The transmission ended. Steele turned to his crew. Set course for Concordate space. Maximum stealth. We are going hunting. The Ragnarok jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving Earth behind. For the next 10 days, the Ragnarok moved through Concordate space like a ghost. Steele used every trick humanity had developed. They jumped in short hops to avoid long-range sensors. They hid in asteroid fields and behind planets. They monitored Concordate communications and struck where defenses were weakest. Supply depots exploded. Shipyards burned. Cargo vessels carrying weapons and ammunition were destroyed. And everywhere they went, Marcus Steele broadcast a message to every species in the galaxy. This is Commander Marcus Steele of the Terran Defense Force. For 50 years, the Concordate has oppressed humanity. They demanded tribute. They denied us colonies. They called us primitives and treated us as slaves. We asked for peace. We asked for fairness. They laughed at us. So now we show them what happens when you push humanity too far. To all species watching, know this. The Concordate is not invincible. They can be beaten. They can be made to fear. And if they fall, perhaps the galaxy can finally be free. The message spread like fire. On 1,000 worlds, species that had been conquered by the Concordate heard Steele's words. Some dismissed it as propaganda, but others began to plan, to organize, to resist. The Concordate felt its grip on the galaxy begin to slip. On Concordate Prime, Velshara watched her empire start to crumble. Rebellions were breaking out on 12 worlds. Species were refusing to pay tribute, and the human ship continued to destroy her forces. Where is the Grand Armada? She demanded. Still assembling at the Nexus Gate, High Arbiter, her military advisor reported. But the human ship is getting close. They have destroyed 7 supply stations in the past 3 days. Our forces are scattered trying to find them. Then recall everything to the Nexus Gate, set a trap. When the human ship arrives, we will surround it and destroy it. Yes, High Arbiter. Velshara turned to look at a holographic display of the galaxy. For 12,000 years, the Concordate had ruled. They had brought order to chaos. They had united species under one banner, and now one species, one ship, was threatening to tear it all apart. How? She whispered. How did we miss this? On the Ragnarok, Steele knew he was running out of time. His ship had taken damage from several encounters. Crew fatigue was setting in, and his intelligence showed that the Concordate was concentrating forces at the Nexus Gate. They are setting a trap, Lieutenant Chen said, reading the tactical data. Of course they are, Steele replied. They think we are stupid enough to attack 2,000 ships head-on, aren't we? Steele laughed. Yes, but not the way they expect. He pulled up a holographic display of the Nexus Gate. It was a massive structure, built by an ancient species millions of years ago. The gate allowed ships to jump across the galaxy instantly, control the gate, and you controlled galactic trade and military movement. The Concordate has 800 ships at the gate now, Steele said, more arriving every day. By the time we reach them, there will be 2,000. He pointed at the gate itself, but they are all focused on protecting the approach routes. They expect us to jump in from one of the standard faster-than-light corridors. And we won't? No, Steele smiled. We are going to jump in right on top of the gate itself. From the galactic north, that route is considered impossible because of gravitational shear from a nearby black hole. Lieutenant Chen stared at him. Sir, that route is considered impossible because ships that try it get torn apart. Concordate ships, Steele corrected. But the Ragnarok has gravitic shields. We can survive the shear for the few seconds we need. And then, Steele's smile became cold. Then we use humanity's gift to the galaxy. Singularity warheads, Chen went pale. Sir, those weapons have never been tested in real combat. The theoretical damage will be enough to destroy the gate and everything around it. Steele looked at his tactical officer. The Concordate thinks this gate is their gathering point, their fortress. We are going to turn it into their grave. He opened a ship-wide channel. All hands, this is the commander. In 6 hours, we will attack the Concordate Grand Armada at the Nexus Gate. We will be outnumbered 2,000 to 1. The Concordate expects us to lose, to die, to fail. He paused. They have not learned that humanity's greatest strength is doing the impossible. Today we show them. Today we win. Battle stations. Throughout the ship, 50,000 crew members prepared for the battle of their lives. They checked weapons, sealed blast doors, and said silent prayers to whatever gods they believed in. And the Ragnarok jumped toward the Nexus Gate, ready to face an entire armada alone. Part 4. The Concordat Grand Armada surrounded the Nexus Gate like a steel cloud. 2,000 warships from 100 different species, all under one banner. The largest military force the galaxy had seen in 5,000 years. On the command ship Eternal Dominion, Fleet Marshal Kras then reviewed his deployments. He was a Vorchek, a species that looked like floating jellyfish with too many tentacles. His people had commanded Concordat fleets for 3,000 years. All approach vectors are covered, his tactical officer reported. Sensor nets are at maximum. The moment the human ship appears, we will have them. Kras then pulsed with satisfaction. Good. High Arbiter Velshara has ordered the human ship destroyed at all costs. Today we will end their rebellion and restore order to the galaxy. But 6 light hours away, the Ragnarok PK was already moving. Entering gravitational shear zone, Lieutenant Chen reported, her voice tight. Shields holding, barely. The ship shook violently as impossible forces tried to rip it apart. Alarms blared. Hull plating groaned. Steele gripped his command chair. Hold course. 20 more seconds. The view screen showed distorted space, bent and twisted by the black hole's gravity. It was beautiful and terrifying. 10 seconds, Chen counted. Shields at 40%. Hull integrity at 60%. Prepare singularity warheads, Steele ordered. Arm all weapon systems. 5 seconds. Shields at 30%. Jump now. The Ragnarok leaped from the gravitational shear zone and appeared directly above the Nexus Gate, less than 50 kilometers away. Around them, 2,000 Concordat ships sat in their defensive formations, all facing the wrong direction. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. The Concordat fleet stared in shock at the human ship that had appeared in an impossible location. Steele used those 3 seconds well. Fire singularity warheads. Full spread. Target the gate and the closest ships. High Arbiter Velshara stood on the bridge of her personal warship, the Eternal Concordat. Behind her ship, 800 vessels represented the last of the Concordat's military power. Everything else was destroyed, scattered, or had defected. Ahead of them, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel. This is where it ends, Velshara said to her remaining advisors. We destroy Earth and the human rebellion collapses. High Arbiter, one advisor dared to speak. Perhaps we should negotiate. The humans have proven they can. Velshara's body flared with angry light. Negotiate? With primitives? Never. I did not rule the Concordat for 2,000 years by showing weakness. We attack. But the advisor was right to be concerned, because as the Concordat fleet approached Earth, 6 massive ships emerged from behind the moon. 6 Ragnarok-class super dreadnoughts, each one 15 kilometers long. Each one carrying 50,000 crew, each one armed with weapons that had never been seen in the galaxy before humanity. On the bridge of the original Ragnarok, Commander Marcus Steele watched the Concordat fleet on his tactical display. His ship was repaired and ready. Around him, 5 identical ships moved into formation. All ships report ready, Lieutenant Chen said. Steele opened a channel to the other 5 dreadnoughts. He saw their commanders on split screens. All were veterans. All were ready to die if necessary. This is Commander Steele. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for every species the Concordat has oppressed. We fight for freedom. We fight for dignity. And we fight to show the galaxy that tyranny ends when good people say enough. He paused. Let's show them what humanity can do. For Earth, the other commanders replied. The 6 ships accelerated toward the Concordat fleet. On the Eternal Concordat, Velshara watched them come and felt something she had not felt in 2,000 years. Fear. The battle began. But it was not a battle. It was an execution. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, using tactics the Concordat had never seen. They divided the enemy fleet into sections and destroyed them one by one. Their weapons fired with devastating accuracy. Their shields absorbed the Concordat's counterattacks without strain. In the first hour, 200 Concordat ships were destroyed. Admiral Helena Kurtz watched from Earth's command center as the battle unfolded. Around her, officers monitored thousands of data streams, On the screens, human ships danced through the Concordat fleet like sharks through schools of fish. "They are breaking," one officer reported. 50 Concordat ships are trying to retreat. "Let them go," Helena ordered. "Focus on the command ship." Once Velshara falls, the Concordat military structure collapses. On the Ragnar Apie, Steele tracked the Eternal Concordat through his sensors. "Target the High Arbiter's ship. All weapons full power." 6 dreadnoughts turned as one and fired, mass driver rounds moving at light speed, plasma lances hot enough to boil steel, missiles that could dodge any defense. The Eternal Concordat's shields failed in seconds. Its hull broke apart, and High Arbiter Velshara, who had ruled the Concordat for 2,000 years, died as her ship exploded around her. The remaining Concordat ships stopped fighting. Without central command, without leadership, they simply drifted. Steele opened a channel to all ships, both human and alien. "This is Commander Marcus Steele of the Terran Defense Force. High Arbiter Velshara is dead. The Concordat military command is destroyed. All ships cease fire." Slowly, the shooting stopped. Space around Earth was filled with wreckage and floating bodies. 800 Concordat ships had attacked. Less than 200 survived intact. Steele took a deep breath. "Attention, all Concordat vessels. You have lost. Your High Arbiter is dead. Your empire is breaking apart. But humanity does not seek genocide. We seek justice. Any ship that surrenders now will be allowed to leave safely. Any ship that continues to fight will be destroyed. You have 5 minutes to decide." In the silence that followed, every surviving Concordat ship surrendered. The war was over. 1 week later, representatives from 200 species gathered on Earth for an emergency galactic council. The old Concordat structure was dissolving. New alliances were forming. And at the center of it all sat humanity. Former Ambassador Chen Wei, now chosen as the first Chancellor of the new Galactic Alliance, stood before the assembly. Behind him, Admiral Helena Kurtz and Commander Marcus Steele stood as symbols of human strength. "For 12,000 years, Chen began, the Concordat ruled through fear and oppression. They told us who could colonize which planets. They took tribute from the weak. They called species like mine primitive and treated us as less than equals." He looked around the chamber. "Today that ends. Today we form a new alliance, one based on equality, on freedom, on the principle that no species has the right to dominate another. A representative from the Kelshani species, the same species as Fleet Commander Zalthos, stood. And who will enforce these principles? Humanity? Will you become the new Concordat?" Chen shook his head. "No, the Galactic Alliance will have no single ruler. Decisions will be made by council vote. Military forces will be voluntary, and any species that feels oppressed can leave without punishment." He paused, "But make no mistake. If any species attempts what the Concordat did, humanity will stop them. The 6 dreadnoughts orbiting Earth are not going away. They are our guarantee that tyranny never returns." The Kelshani representative sat down, satisfied. For hours, the representatives debated and voted. New laws were written. Old grudges were aired. But slowly a new structure emerged. Not perfect, but better. Fairer. Human. 1 month later, Marcus Steele stood in a museum on Earth looking at a display. The damaged hull section of the original Ragnar Amke hung from the ceiling. Burn marks and impact craters covered its surface. A plaque beneath it read, "The TDF Ragnarok, built in secret, deployed in desperation, victorious through determination." This ship and its crew showed the galaxy that humanity will never surrender. Never submit, never stop fighting for freedom. Steele felt someone approach. It was Helena Kurtz, now retired from military service. "Do you think it will last?" Steele asked. "The peace?" Helena considered the question. "For a while. Maybe a generation, maybe longer. But eventually someone will challenge the alliance. Someone will try to dominate others. And when they do," Helena smiled, "then we will remind them of what happened to the Concordat. We will remind them that humanity learned warfare long before we reached the stars. We will remind them that underestimating humans is a fatal mistake." They stood in silence watching as alien visitors entered the museum. A group of young aliens from a dozen species stopped in front of the Ragnarum PK display. One of them, a small crystalline being, asked its parent a question. "Why did the humans fight?" The parent, an older crystalline being, thought carefully before answering. "Because when you back a human into a corner, they do not beg." They do not surrender. They attack. And they keep attacking until either they win or they die. The parent pointed at the hull section. The Concordat learned this lesson too late. We must remember it always. The young one looked at the battle-scarred metal with new respect. I will remember. Steele and Helena exchanged a glance, then quietly left the museum. Outside, the sun was setting over the Pacific Ocean. In orbit above, 6 super dreadnoughts stood watch over Earth, and in shipyards across the solar system, construction had begun on 12 more, not for conquest, not for empire, but as a promise that humanity would never be victims again, that any species seeking to oppress others would face the same fate as the Concordat, and that the galaxy, for all its wonders and diversity, had learned a simple truth. Earth was a death world. Its people were forged by ice ages and plagues, by world wars and near extinctions. They had climbed from caves to touch the stars, and anyone who forgot what that meant, anyone who saw humanity as primitive or weak, would learn the lesson the Concordat learned, too late, far, far too late. On every new dreadnought, on every human warship, on every colonial station and outpost, 2 words were inscribed in 100 languages. Never again. It was not a plea, it was a promise, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 3,000 years. 847 different species lived under their laws, traded with each other, and kept the peace. Wars were a thing of the past, a dark memory that the galaxy had left behind. The Council made sure everyone followed the rules. Captain Venn sat in his office on the Council headquarters looking at the daily reports. He was a Shikari, a reptilian species known for their patience and attention to detail. His scales were a dull green, marking him as a mid-level administrator. Today's reports were boring as usual. Trade disputes, minor violations, routine surveys of new star systems. Then one file caught his eye. Earth, Sector 7719. Status, Protected Developing Species. Venn remembered Earth. 200 years ago, a survey ship had found the planet during a routine exploration mission. The humans living there were still primitive by galactic standards. They had just started launching basic rockets into space. They had not discovered faster-than-light travel. They still fought wars with each other. The Council had done what it always did with such species. They placed an automated barrier around the entire solar system. The humans were forbidden from leaving. No contact was allowed until humanity passed the civilization maturity assessment. It was for their own good, the Council said. Young species needed time to grow up, to leave behind their violent ways. Ben had seen dozens of species go through this process. Most took 300 to 500 years. Some never made it. They destroyed themselves before they learned to stop fighting. He looked at the Earth file more carefully. The humans had been trying to contact the Council for decades now. Their messages were all stored in the database, unread. Van opened a few of them. This is Earth. We request an audience with the Galactic Council. We have detected your monitoring probes. We wish to establish diplomatic relations. Please respond. We know you are watching us. The messages grew more frustrated over time, but the rules were clear. Protected species did not get responses until they were ready. The barrier stayed up. The humans stayed inside their solar system. Ben closed the file and moved on to the next report. 3 sectors away, Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of a human spacecraft, staring at the invisible wall that surrounded her home system. She could not see it, but she knew it was there. Every time a human ship tried to pass, automated drones appeared and pushed them back. No warnings, no explanations, just cold mechanical rejection. Sarah was 43 years old. She had spent her entire career in Earth's space fleet, pushing against that barrier, trying to find a way through. Her ship, the Endeavour, was one of humanity's newest exploration vessels. It carried the best sensors, the most advanced computers, the fastest engines that Earth could build. None of it mattered. The barrier remained. Captain, we're detecting a signal, her communications officer said. It's a distress call. Sarah turned quickly. From who? A Council science vessel. It's about 5 million kilometers from the barrier. Looks like they're having engine problems. Sarah pulled up the data on her screen. The alien ship was definitely in trouble. Its power readings were dropping. The crew was calling for help. How long until their backup arrives? Sarah asked. Unknown, Captain. but their life support is failing. They have maybe 6 hours. Sarah looked at the barrier between her ship and the dying aliens. She could reach them in 30 minutes. She could save them, but the rules said no contact. Earth was forbidden from helping. She made her decision. Take us to them. Full speed. The Endeavour pushed forward, heading for the barrier. As expected, 3 automated drones appeared, moving to intercept. Sarah had studied these drones for years. She knew their patterns, their responses, their programming. Broadcast on all council frequencies, she ordered. Tell them we are attempting a rescue mission. Medical emergency. International law of space. The drones did not respond. They never did. They simply moved to block the Endeavour's path. Sarah watched the alien ship on her sensors. Its power was dropping faster now. All hands prepare for a captain. Her tactical officer interrupted. New contacts. Council peacekeepers just entered the area. 3 large ships appeared, painted white with the Council's symbol on their hulls. They were impressive vessels, each one 600 meters long. They moved toward the dying science ship. Sarah felt relief. Good. They can handle the rescue. But the peacekeeper ships did not dock with the science vessel. Instead, they positioned themselves around it and waited. Sarah stared in confusion. What are they doing? Her communications officer looked pale. Captain, I'm picking up their transmissions. The peacekeepers are... They're not rescuing the crew. What? Council protocols forbid them from accepting help from protected species. They say it would contaminate humanity with advanced knowledge. The peacekeepers are waiting for a proper rescue ship to arrive from the nearest council station. How long will that take? 14 hours. Sarah looked at the dying ship. 6 hours of life support left. 14 hours for help to arrive. The math was simple and horrible. They're going to let them die, she whispered. Her crew stood silent on the bridge. They all understood what they were watching. The council would rather let their own people die than break their precious rules. Sarah recorded everything. The distress calls, the peacekeeper ship sitting idle, the science vessel's final transmissions as its crew ran out of air. When it was over, she turned her ship around and headed back to Earth. The transmission reached Earth's Deep Space Array station within minutes. Within an hour, it was being broadcast on every news channel on the planet. Within a day, the entire human population had seen it. Scientists dying while help waited nearby. Bureaucracy valued over life. The anger was immediate and universal. For 200 years, humanity had tried to be patient. They had followed the rules. They had waited for the Council to acknowledge them. They had believed the galaxy would be better than Earth's violent past. They had been wrong. The United Earth government held an emergency session. Every nation sent representatives. The debate lasted 3 days. Some argued for continued patience. Most argued for action. In the end, the vote was unanimous. If the Council would not let humanity join through diplomacy, then humanity would make them listen. Deep in a classified facility on the far side of the moon, construction began. Humanity had spent 2 centuries studying every probe the Council sent into their system. They had reverse-engineered the technology. They had learned how the barrier worked, how Council weapons functioned, how their ships were designed. Now they would build something the galaxy had not seen in 3,000 years. A true warship, not a patrol vessel or a ceremonial display of force. A ship designed by a species that had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war. The project was called Indomitable. 3 years later, every sensor station in the Sol system detected the same thing at the same moment. The barrier that had surrounded humanity for 2 centuries simply shut down. No warnings, no explanations. It was just gone. From the moon's shipyard, a single vessel emerged. It was 3 kilometers long, covered in armor that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. It did not look like council ships with their smooth curves and bright colors. It looked brutal, efficient, dangerous. Commander Sarah Chen sat in the captain's chair, older now but no less determined. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. They knew what they were about to do. They knew what it might cost. Communications, Sarah said calmly. Broadcast on all council frequencies. Channel open, Captain. Sarah looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was about to learn that humanity had finished waiting. This is the United Earth ship Indomitable to the Galactic Council. Humanity requests an audience. We will wait for your response, but we will not wait forever, and we will not turn back. The message traveled faster than light, spreading across the galactic network. On 847 worlds, people heard Earth's voice for the first time in 2 centuries. The message was clear. Humanity was coming, and this time they would be heard.